Hi, this is János, this is Real World Audio, and I'm going to continue on the Cube Audio drivers for void pipes and other full range cabinets versus other drivers. And I'm going to do that because I'm answering another comment, and this is about Sonido drivers. So after I made my last video, I received several comments how about Sonido, because what I said in that video is that the Cube Audio FC8 is a whole lot better than the $600 range drivers at Parts Express, and actually I didn't include the Sonido on that because there's no Sonido from Parts Express. And however, these comments are really good because yes, that is a really good question, because Sonido's drivers I think are worth much more than what their asking price is. Still, a lot of what I said in that video about generally the $600 range versus Cube Audio, it still stands in some aspects. And now let's expand on it. So I'm going to read out the comment. Hi János, thanks a lot for those very interesting points. Would you say that this also applies to Sonido drivers? Both the SFR200A as well as the SFR250A, new model not listed on their website yet, but I know from István that it's coming. So it looks like the SFR200A, that's the 8-inch Alnico version, and the SFR250A, I think that will be a 10-inch Alnico model that's coming out. So they are both capable of producing frequencies in the 20 Hz range, of course on a lower dB level compared to the upper, let's say 100 Hz range. But I thought, or that's how I understood your videos about void pipe, that this should not be relevant as the void pipe will leverage the base frequencies. Or did I understand this wrong? And I think you understood it correctly, and that's what I said in my videos, and in my other videos, or maybe those very same videos, I also said that how well the pipe negotiates those low frequencies depends a lot on the amplifier room interaction. So even though the driver is capable of producing 20 Hz in a void pipe, depending on the room and amplifier combination, you might get it or you might not get it. And I know from experience that these void pipes of mine, I had the fortune or maybe misfortune to try them out in over a dozen different rooms, partly because I had to move so many, not just so many times during the past 20 years. I haven't moved 12 times, but I tried them out in many rooms. So whenever, like here or any places I lived previous in my life, I tried out the pipes in every single room of the house or the home or apartment, just to gain the experience, how do they work in different rooms. And that's why I know from first-hand experience that the exact same pipe, exact same system moved to a different room will vastly change how well the lower region, the lowest registers will play. And based on that experience, what I have noticed is that okay, I have to add one thing here, is that now we are talking about the Sonido drivers, the SFR200A, and let me show, ta-da, this is the driver we are talking about. So this is that wonderful 8-inch Sonido driver, and I have not tried it out yet, or them, because I have to. Thank you, Gerald. And by the way, this is a huge shout out to all of you who support me through Buy Me a Coffee and who support me through your phenomenal support, like Gerald. He sent me a pair of Sonido drivers, and they're just fantastic, truly amazing. And it's a dream come true, because I always wanted to try out these Sonido drivers. And but previously I had the Fostex FE204 in the pipes, so I originally designed them for the FE204. And actually the small parameters of the Sonido SFR200A are extremely close to the FE204. So I know I often tell this, that don't put all your faith into the small parameters, in that regards that they will not predict you what you will get in a loudspeaker, how it will behave, but it gives you enough ideas on what how it can load the room, or how it behaves with your amplifier, with your room, through a specific speaker. And that's how I can infer or estimate that a driver which has the almost exact same small parameters as the FE204 that I had in my void pipe before will give me almost the exact same performance in matching room acoustics, in matching my system or systems or equipment that I play around with. And with that, I can tell that the Cube Audio, it has certain small parameters which are close enough that I felt comfortable in just putting them in this void pipe, and they work absolutely fabulously perfectly in this cabinet, which was designed for the Sonido SFR200A parameters. And what I have found is that the Cube Audio driver is much easier produce those low frequencies in rooms that were difficult for the Fostex 204, which has the same parameters as the SFR 200A. Not the exact same, but close enough that the and what is the close enoughness? The electrical Q is very close to the Sonidos, and here the electrical Q is much higher for the Cube Audio FC8. So what that means is that, and it's not just the electrical Q, but how the philosophy of how these drivers were made. The philosophy of the Sonido is a similar philosophy how the Fostex FE204 was made. And right now I don't have the FE204 with me. I will make a video, but if I hold the two of these together, they are extremely similar in how they look like. They are very, very close to each other. And I would say that the Sonido has a much better basket than that. Of course, it has the honeycomb magnet, which is also a huge plus, but the cone geometry is extremely close, very similar, and also the voicing of the two, when you look at the frequency range, frequency spectrum, they are very similar, and the efficiencies are similar. So that's how I can infer from these that they will have very similar tonality, very similar character, which is absolutely fantastic, because that driver was a gem. Sadly, they stopped making it like 20 years ago, and generally people have noticed that the more modern Fostex drivers are not voiced not nearly as nice as they used to voice them like 20-25 years ago. Now they give them a more edgy, more modern voice, so the mid-range tonality is not as beautiful as it was. But that's where Sonido enters with their amazing, fantastic tonality. And so what I wanted to say is that in answering that comment that the frequency goes down to 20 hertz, so this driver, when put in a cabinet, can reach down to 20 hertz. And when you put it in a void pipe cabinet, that will ease it down to those lowest registers. But the driver itself doesn't have as much excursion as the FC8 to produce those low frequencies like a 20 hertz at such a level that that can be maintained easily in your room. I don't know if this makes any sense at all. I have something in my head and I'm not doing a really good job transmitting it to you at the moment, but what I can say is that what my experience is that the Cube Audio can load in this same exact void pipe, can load my living room very easily down to 20 hertz, clean as a whistle, with the same setup, where the FE204, basically everything under 100 hertz was almost missing. That the difference is that staggering based on your amplifier room interaction. And that exact same speaker, exact same driver, depending on, like, out of those 12 rooms where I tried them, I had in several rooms that type of experience, that the bass was totally gone under 100 hertz, and in other rooms it was like the best 30 hertz region, or like best kettle drum I ever heard reproduced, like the one that has the best three-dimensionality that I ever heard in my life came from these void pipes with the FE204, and that was in my mentors, in Stu's shop. That was 20 years ago when I brought them in, and he hooked them up to a PX25 amplifier, and we put on some Dead Can Dance, and it was like such a holographic giant kettle drum sitting in front of me, and when bang bang, it was just the closest thing to hitting a real kettle drum which I had experienced, to witness, like sitting or standing next to a kettle drum being hit like a couple feet away from me, and that was the only recorded experience that was the closest to those live experiences of experiencing a kettle drum, and that was with the Fostex FE204, which has TS parameters very similar to it. However, when I put that same speaker in different rooms, there it was not as powerful. And in most of my rooms, yes, I had fantastic extension, and down to, I would say, like 30 hertz. The bass was excellent, but it was not like a really strong bass. It was a little bit like going lower in dB compared to what you would say as a level response, but it was there, very clean, beautiful, but not as I would say permeating what the Cube Audio FC8 does. The Cube Audio FC8 will extend to the exact same low frequency as as a Fostex would or as a Sonido would, just that it has the ability to maintain, energize that region more easily than what a Sonido would or a Fostex would in the same room, and it is because they designed it that way. So it is a device that was designed with the specific purpose to have the base, the energy shunted towards the base. So when the driver designers voice the drivers, depending on how they create the voice coil gap, how they create the suspension of the driver, the magnetic circuit, how is it formed, you can manipulate and shift, or I would say not manipulate, but you can voice it to have a specific amount of energy given to a specific region. And how Fostex energizes or designs their drivers is that they have the majority of the energy between the 200 hertz range and up, and in that fashion they can maintain, like in the FE204, like a 95 dB efficiency from 200 hertz on up. And of course for the highest frequencies like 10 kilohertz plus, it goes even higher because of the visor cone. It can go like 100 dB plus. So that's why we play around a little bit of how you place your speakers. That's why you can place them, you don't need to tow them in, because if you tow them in, so if you have them fire directly at you, then you will have like a 96 dB average coming at you with 100 dB at some of those high frequencies, and that's just way too much. So that's why you don't tow them in at all, so you are sitting off axis from the main energy of the driver, and that's when you are getting an even response even in the high frequency regions. But this is true also for the cube audio as well, that the 10 kilohertz plus region is also has this additional bump in the efficiency, and that's why I'm not towing them in, because off axis it gives you the right amount of highs. So this is true for everything: cube audio, Mark audio, SB acoustics, everything that has a visor cone in it, or the driver. The main difference is in how the bass is created, and what is happening is that for the majority of these drivers like Mark audio through Fostex, Sonido, they use they shunt the majority of the strength to the 200 hertz plus region, and that's why they can maintain like a 90, 94, 95, 96, 98 dB efficiency for this entire region. And yes, provided you put it in a void pipe cabinet or a proper cabinet, you also have a good bass response. But we all know this is tricky. It can be done, but it's tricky, and usually throughout all the board, when you look at the comments that people comment on the Fostex cabinets, because Fostex has like tons of cabinet ideas for their drivers, overall the American users or builders, DIYers, all of them report that the bass is good quality, but the level is much lower than they are used to from other speakers here in the United States. And that's something kind of like for Japanese flavor, Japanese audience, that you want the quality but at a lower quantity. So the SPL is not super high, it is more modest, but it's there. And the void pipes, these void pipes are the only ones where I can get not that deep bass response, but the bass response goes like way up than that, but it depends on the room if it can do or not. And with the Cube Audio, how they designed it is that they kept the efficiency lower, and they also increased the motor strength tremendously. So for the majority of the Fostex drivers, they are about 1.6 Tesla in the voice coil gap. That's the magnetic strength in the voice coil gap that's able to control the voice coil. In comparison, when you have like generic speakers, most of them are around 1.1, 1.2 Teslas. Even if you have like a big giant woofer, it's like 1.1 Tesla for the majority of the speakers that are like two-way, three-way, X-way, whatever, from Wilson audio through whatever, Bauer Wilkins, etc. The only exception in the multi-driver commercial speaker world are the tweeters, because there they sometimes employ the really expensive beryllium tweeters. Often they can go up to 2 Teslas. They employ that. And but apart from those tweeters, like the woofers, you get mid-range drivers are around 1.1 Tesla. And the single drivers, they range, if you go for the cheap ones, like $100 a pair full range driver, they are cheap like that because they have the 1.1 Tesla in that range motors. And when you get bumped up to the $600 range, that's where you get the 1.5-ish Tesla motor, because they're much bigger, more materials needed, and it's not, you would say, okay, a magnet doesn't cost that much, a few dollars, but yeah, but it here, when you are looking at driver, you are not paying for the material cost, you are paying for the manufacturing cost. The manufacturing costs are the ones that are massively more than the materials cost. It's the manufacturing, the tooling, and that you are paying for drivers which are not made like almost like toilet paper, because when you have the two-way, three-way commercial speakers, the drivers that they make for them, like in China you make like 1 million drivers, and then companies just buy them like a few dollars a piece. And if you want something specialized for a single driver speaker, then it's not going, you are not, and if you want to go for something that is not made in the hundreds of thousands, then it's going to be very expensive. Like Cube Audio, they make the drivers themselves, and that's why they are so freaking expensive, because they have to create the tooling and everything, and that's what it's cost to manufacture drivers yourself. And especially because the Cube Audio, they have this driver behind me has a 2 Tesla motor, which is insane. So that's why the louder drivers are so expensive, because they have like the 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2 Tesla motors. And when you have the 2 Tesla motors, those are the most expensive louder drivers. And wherever you look, if you want 2 Tesla motor strength, then they will be always very, very expensive, because it's very limited series that you are manufacturing them. And but why was I talking about the 2 Tesla? Because it's like a tremendously strong motor, and the way Cube Audio built their driver is that they shuffled that motor strength to give it boost for the low frequencies. And that's why when I changed my Fostex drivers, which have a stated efficiency of 95 dB per watt meter, to the FC8s, which are on paper just like 91 or 92 dB per watt meter efficient, what I experienced that the FC8s played louder. My impression was that the music was playing louder, as if I turned up the volume compared to the Fostex. And the reason behind that the bass from the FC8 is playing like at much higher level, and then as we go lower and lower in the frequencies, it keeps up. So even at like 25 hertz, they play as strong as they play at 200 hertz. And with the FE204, I could hear that like below 200 hertz, it's already starts weakening. And the FC8s, no, they keep it up until the bottom end. So and if you look at it, like look at loudspeaker simulation programs, you know that producing the low frequencies, like anything below 40 hertz, even if you just want a dB or two increase, like a baby increase that to our ears almost hears like nothing, it is a tremendously tough call for a driver to reach that much more. And what these are doing, especially like at 20 hertz, is not 1, 2, but I would say at least like 30 dB plus compared to what the Fostex would play in the same room. And yeah, so I think that that's really massive. But as I would say, most of you or all of you, probably most of you would agree with me upon, is that like sub 50 hertz region is not everything, and you don't even need that part of the sound to make a happy, good experience. And I totally agree with that. For the majority of my life, I was really happy of even in those rooms when these speakers did not load the room to play really deep bass, because they played really fantastically in the mid-range. If you have wonderful mid-range, then even if you don't have that super extension in the bass, you will not miss it as much, because you have the mid-range. And that's, I would say, it's a personal thing. I think it's a development on how we listen to music, how we listen to sound. Most people in the beginning get captured by bass or highs or something like that, but 90% of what our brains process and 90% of where the music material lives is the mid-range. And when you are not just in the process of trying to put together a system for you, but you are at the stage where you went beyond that and you are enjoying music, you are absorbing music from your speakers, so it stops just being an A/B test and is this modification good or not, but you are in the mindset that, okay, I'm listening to, let me grab something here, I'm listening to this LP, whichever LP, I just grab something from behind myself, then you just go into it and just I just get absorbed into how Arthur Rubinstein interprets the music and how that's different from Sviatoslav Richter or whoever when they interpret it. And I think that's what I really love about music, is the music itself. And what I noticed in my audiophile life is that most of it rides on the mid-range, and the bass and the highs is just the icing on the cake, but what you need is the cake itself. And those, and let's say the $600 drivers, the majority of them are perfectly capable of giving you the cake. and I say that on top of that